map of Baltimore, Maryland. It's a city that's less than an hour away from the US Capitol, Washington, D.C. It's a city of about 600,000 people, known for crabs, Old Bay seasoning, having a beautiful waterfront, and a vibrant arts and culture scene. It's also the city where I live. This map in particular was made in 1937 by the Homeowners Loan Corporation. And what it shows us is neighborhoods in blue and green that the Homeowners Loan Corporation decided were desirable neighborhoods in which to live, and neighborhoods in yellow and red, which were deemed less and least desirable neighborhoods in which to live. What the map doesn't explicitly tell us is that the neighborhoods in red are where concentrations of people of color, people like me, would live, as well as people with less affluence than those who lived in the green and blue neighborhoods. Maps like these allowed banks and other financial institutions to deny people from getting loans to buy their homes, as well as from other investment and services from coming into these neighborhoods. As you can imagine, this resulted in a city with immense economic inequality and racial segregation, and it's a practice known as redlining. Whoops. Unfortunately, this practice was not isolated to Baltimore. In fact, there are 239 cities across the US that had maps similar to the ones that we see here and that I saw on the last slide. And redlining was only one of many forms of discriminatory zoning and investment practices in the US that were used for many years. And though these practices have been abolished, their effects live on, contributing to a country with gross wealth, education, health, and quality of life disparities. It's a system that has outlived its creators, and it's a system that must be undone. The field in which I work, community development, is a direct response to these practices, and I happen to work for one of the pioneers in the field, LISC, Local Initiative Support Corporation. At LISC, we make grants, loans, and equity investments in low and moderate income communities to create places where people thrive, and to provide the direct capacity building and technical assistance for community-based organizations to ensure that the work is sustainable. We're what is known as a community development intermediary. Our work supports housing, small businesses, jobs, safety, economic development, and health. It's a range of tools and resources that are tailored to the local environments in which we work. And since we were founded in 1979, we've expanded from just New York City to more than 33 countries across the US, pictured here, as well as a rural network that includes 2,000 partners in over 1,400 counties in the US. Since 1979, we've invested nearly $19 billion across the country, built 376,000 units of housing, created thousands of jobs, and achieved a AA bond rating, which is not easy to do in the US. We're one of the leaders in equitable development in the US. So at this point, you're probably wondering, what does arts and culture have to do with all this? Why would a community development intermediary invest in arts, culture, and design? And to me, this answer is simple, and it's that creativity and culture inspire connectivity and sense of place. And if you are in the business of equitable development, as LISC is, then your development must respond to the local culture of that place. It needs to be repairing the social fabric that was ripped apart just as much as it focuses on physical rebuilding and economic development. Without culture, community development is nothing more than housing units, jobs created, and bond ratings. We need more, and we deserve more. Fortunately for me, this wasn't a very hard sell for LISC. In fact, we quickly realized that the arts and culture were an untapped resource in the LISC portfolio. In community development, we spend so much time talking about what communities lack, what we don't have, and yet culture and artists are an asset that every place has. I'm not talking about museums, I'm not talking about multi-million-dollar public art projects. I'm talking about the people that you know in your neighborhood who sing or dance or knit or sew, the parks you enjoy, grandma's cooking, or the local festival that's held every year in your neighborhood, the things that you love about where you live. How do we elevate these assets, promote these leaders and perspectives to shape the way that we develop places? For LISC, we call this approach creative placemaking, and it's the intentional integration of arts, culture, and community design into comprehensive community development and planning. Creative placemaking seeks to cultivate arts and culture in neighborhoods in service of community development outcomes. And it's really important that we don't take a one-size-fits-all approach to this work. If we do, we risk using the arts and culture as a tool for gentrification. But what I do know, now being several years into this practice, is that good creative placemaking projects have the following core values. First, that we're lifting up arts, culture, and design as core sectors in community development, and that we're positioning artists, designers, and culture bearers as leaders on cross-sector teams to solve complex community challenges. Next, that we're pursuing equity, that we're constantly asking ourselves who benefits and who pays for projects. It's vital that partners establish shared goals and visions at the onset of a project. Next, that we're also affirming the distinctiveness of place and building on existing assets. Sometimes change may mean preserving or leveraging something that already exists. How can we lift up those resources? And how can we celebrate what is beloved in your community, local heroes and local histories? Next, that we're doing development without displacement, that we're emphasizing small scale and incremental approaches. The work must be comprehensive, collaborative, and community driven. When we work together and think holistically and incorporate the needs and perspectives of the residents in the communities in which we work, our projects are more relevant, achieve greater impact, and can tackle more complex challenges. And finally, that we're building enduring capacity, that we're investing in supporting leaders and lifting up residents as co-creators in this process. So that was a lot of talking and a lot of words. What does this look like in practice? Got a few examples here to show you. What we're seeing are outcomes that are having positive impact for social cohesion, economic development, and physical revitalization. I'll start with social cohesion. When we think about the products, we often think about the products that arts, culture, and design leave us with, whether that's a mural, public art, performance, etc. But oftentimes the process of creation can be just as meaningful. The slide pictured here is the American Street Feast held in Philadelphia, which was organized as a way for community to claim a meaningful role in the creation of a common vision for American Street, which they happen to be sitting on in this photo, which they did in the form of a dinner party. Prior to this dinner party, American Street was seen as an eyesore. And by leading a community engagement process, one that included, creating napkins, placemats, even the menu for the feast, residents were engaged and they were able to reimagine a future for their neighborhood. And as a result of the feast, after the thing had finished up, a new resident council was formed to influence the future planning of their neighborhood. And neighbors reported that they felt increased senses of inclusion, belonging, and ownership of their community. Another social cohesion example, this is Faith Bartley, pictured in the purple. And Faith is at the People's Paper Co-op, which is also located in Philadelphia. And what she's doing here is creating a handmade paper from her old rap sheet. She works for an organization that works with people returning to their communities after incarceration. And the co-op, the People's Paper Co-op, merges legal advocacy, job training, and community building, and then employs artists who have gone through their program to help others do the same, all in the name of community healing. There we go. There she is. So moving on to physical transformation. The physical transformation of spaces and places provides space for cultural expression, whether that's public art, a community gathering space, or a place to make things. This is actually a picture of Mr. Tony, one of my former neighbors, in fact, who's featured along with a series of local leaders in an outdoor mural exhibition of temporary murals, all created through a community process. Physical transformation can also mean drumming up new life for old spaces. This is the Dodge building in Detroit, another LISC investment, and it was a rehab from a vacant industrial building into a multi-tenant industrial art space that now hosts 15 creative businesses. We can also scale this work to the corridor level. This is the Indy Convergence space in Indianapolis, Indiana, which spurred the redevelopment of a main street. And finally, we're seeing that creative placemaking can be used to create more equitable and inclusive economic and workforce development. This is a picture of a young person that is in one of our youth-based employment programs that focuses on the industrial arts as a career pathway for young people who need an alternative to an advanced degree. We're also investing in creative training and workforce development partnerships. The next two slides are from the Rutgers Makerspace, again in Indianapolis, Indiana. And the Rutgers Makerspace provides options for new and growing businesses, over 20% of which are people of color. This next photo is an example. This is the Latinas Welding Guilds. And what they do is they create small training cohorts of Latina women in partnership with a local community college and then connect people with job opportunities at the end of the program. And finally, this is Legrand Lindor in Boston, Massachusetts. He's the owner of Caribbean Apparel and is one of the examples of our culturally based micro-enterprise investments. Legrand manufactures apparel and casual wear representing more than 23 Caribbean countries, from Trinidad and Tobago to Belize. And clients of his include people from Olympic teams and NFL players. Despite Legrand's success, he was unable to access a loan that would enable him to expand his business until he got hooked up with LISC. So we're really proud of Legrand. So to wrap it all up, as people working on local balanced development, we are so often forced to focus on physical development, housing, highways, what to do with vacant spaces, the problems that we all face. We focus on succinct projects, deadlines, and checking the box. But community is unbounded, it's messy, and it's complex. So when you return to your own communities, I urge you to embrace that complexity, to understand and lift up the local culture of the places in which you live, and to build from existing assets. It's the only way to develop equitably. Community is full of contradiction. It's at once beautiful, sorrowful, and hopeful. And arts and culture help us to understand this complexity, to realize a more equitable vision for the future, and to make that vision a reality. Thank you.